Before we begin, if you enjoy intense, emotional stories that make you question everything you thought you knew about relationships, loyalty, and human nature, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Because what you're about to hear stays with you. Some stories aren't just told, they're felt. And tonight, this is one of them. The penthouse was unnaturally quiet, not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that made every small sound feel amplified. Like the world outside had been muted on purpose. Far below, the city pulsed with life, cars moving like streams of light, distant sirens echoing through the night. But up here on the top floor, it felt like time had slowed down. Lena lay stretched across the king-sized bed, her body sinking into the soft mattress as the faint glow of the city filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The skyline shimmered in the distance, but her attention wasn't on the view. It was inward, her thoughts, her restlessness, the quiet tension that had been building inside her for months. She adjusted slightly, the silk robe she wore shifting with her movement, catching the warm amber light and reflecting it softly across her skin. It had been a gift. Paris. A memory from a time when things still felt alive. Now, everything felt distant. Routine. Predictable. Empty. She exhaled slowly, staring at the ceiling as if it might offer answers it never would. There was a strange kind of energy in the room tonight, unsettling, yet impossible to ignore. Then a sound. Sharp. Out of place. The door handle. Lena froze instantly, her breath caught halfway through her chest as her eyes snapped toward the door. For a moment, she told herself it was nothing, just the building settling, or maybe the wind pressing against the windows. But then came something unmistakable, a dull thud. Heavy. Real. Her heartbeat quickened, and before she could react, the door opened. Jared stood there. He didn't step inside right away. He just stood in the doorway, framed by the dim hallway light. His presence filled the room instantly. Gym clothes, slightly damp hair, breathing heavier than normal, like he'd rushed back. For a split second, their eyes met. And something shifted. Not spoken. Not understood. Just there, a pause stretched between them. Too long. Too heavy. Too real. Jared looked away first. He started, his voice uneven. I think I left something in here. It wasn't convincing, not even close, and they both knew it. Lena slowly sat up, pulling the robe tighter around herself, not out of panic, but out of instinct. Your father isn't home, she said calmly. Her voice was steady, but beneath it, something else lingered. Jared nodded slightly, but didn't respond. For a brief second, it seemed like he might say something more, like there was something building behind his silence. But instead he turned and left, the door shutting behind him with a finality that echoed through the entire penthouse. Lena remained still, completely still. As if moving too soon might make everything that just happened real. Her pulse hadn't slowed. Not even close. She looked toward the door, then away. Then finally toward the mirror across the room. Her reflection stared back at her, but something about it felt different. Not guilt, not exactly. Something more complicated. Something she didn't want to name. She lay back slowly, staring at the ceiling again. But now, the silence wasn't peaceful. It was charged. And deep down, she knew one thing for certain: this wasn't over. 40-8 hours passed, but nothing returned to normal. If anything, the air felt heavier. Like the entire penthouse was holding onto something unspoken. At dinner, the tension was impossible to ignore. Two people sitting across from each other, pretending everything was fine, but neither of them touched their food. Neither of them relaxed. Every glance lasted a second too long, or ended too quickly. Until finally Lena broke the silence. We should talk about it. Jared didn't look up immediately, but when he did, there was no confusion in his expression. Only awareness. Talk about what? He asked quietly, but the question wasn't real. It didn't need an answer, because they both already knew. The silence at the table didn't feel accidental anymore. It felt intentional. Like both of them were avoiding something, yet waiting for the other to bring it up first. Lena leaned back slightly, her fingers wrapped around her glass, watching him not obviously. But carefully, Jared avoided eye contact, but not completely, just enough to pretend nothing had changed. Things feel different, she said finally. Her voice was calm, controlled. Jared let out a quiet breath through his nose. Yeah, he admitted. They do. That was the first honest moment, and somehow it made everything heavier. The days that followed weren't loud or dramatic. There were no arguments. No confrontations. Just small things, subtle changes, moments that lingered longer than they should, conversations that stopped halfway, glances that carried meaning neither of them explained. Lena found herself noticing things she hadn't before: the way Jared moved through the apartment, the quiet confidence in his posture, the way he seemed more aware now. And Jared, he noticed everything: the pauses in her speech, the way she seemed distracted, the moments she looked like she wanted to say something but didn't. It wasn't obvious, but it was undeniable that something had shifted. It happened late one evening. The city lights were brighter than usual, reflecting across the glass like a second world. Outside, Lena stood near the window, Jared behind her. Not too close, but not distant either. We can't ignore this, she said. No hesitation this time. Jared nodded slowly. I know. Pause. Then what are we even dealing with here? That question hung in the air. Not demanding an answer, but forcing one. Jared stepped closer, just enough for his voice to soften. I think we crossed a line, he said. Lena didn't turn around. I think we noticed it, she replied. That was the truth, and it changed everything. That night, neither of them slept properly, not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. Thoughts ran in circles, questions without answers, feelings without clear definitions. Lena stared at the ceiling for hours. Was it loneliness? Was it emotional distance in her life? Or was it something deeper? Something she didn't want to face? Meanwhile, Jared sat in his room, staring at nothing, trying to convince himself it was just a moment, just confusion. But deep down, he knew it wasn't that simple. The tension eventually demanded release. Not in the way you'd expect it, through honesty. Real, uncomfortable honesty. I think we need boundaries, Lena said the next day. Jared didn't argue, but he didn't agree immediately either. Or distance, he added. That word hit harder than expected. Distance. It sounded right. Responsible. Necessary. But neither of them liked it, because distance meant one thing ending. Whatever this was, life doesn't always give you clear paths. Sometimes it gives you to wrong choices and asks you to pick the one you can live with. They both knew continuing like this wasn't sustainable. But walking away, that wasn't easy either. So they made a decision. Not emotional. Not impulsive. Deliberate. They would reset everything, create space, rebuild normalcy. And most importantly, they would not let one moment define everything. The penthouse slowly returned to what it used to be. Quiet. Calm. Predictable. But not empty anymore, because now there was awareness. Understanding. And a silent agreement that some lines, once seen, must never be crossed again. Lena focused on herself. Her routine, her independence, and something she hadn't prioritized in a long time: clarity. Jared did the same. Gym. Work. Time outside, distance that helped him think clearly again. Weeks later, they stood in the same room again, but this time it felt different. Not tense. Not heavy. Just grounded. You okay? Jared asked. Lena smiled slightly. Yeah, she said. And this time it was real. No confusion. No hesitation. Just acceptance. Some moments in life aren't meant to continue. They're meant to teach. And then let go. If this story made you think, if it made you question how thin the line can be between emotion and decision, then make sure you like the video. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that go deeper than just surface level drama, because sometimes The most powerful stories aren't about what happens, they're about what almost did.